I was diagnosed with metastasized melanoma in 1999. I'll just tell you a little bit about my story for those who haven't heard it. If you want to get more detail, there's a 44-page ebook on our website that you can download for free. Nikki actually did a contribution to that just recently to kind of talk about what her perspective is on it, and she talked about some of her struggles and her issues with being married to somebody who's really difficult like me. But I was diagnosed with advanced stage metastasized melanoma in 1999. When I was 29, it was about a year and a half earlier. I went to the doctor because I had this. Well, actually, at the time when I went to the doctor, I was getting a physical for racing, and I asked him about the mole on my back, and he said, "Ah, don't worry about it. It's no big deal." And it was kind of like it was kind of like about right there, just between my spine and the left shoulder blade. There was this mole there, and so we let it go. Didn't think anything about it. And then about a year and a half later, you know, one of my favorite things to do. There's no corner I can do it, but I would like back up to a corner and I would scratch that spot because it was itchy. It was irregular shaped, discolored, itchy mole, like all the characteristics of melanoma. And so my mom, as I mentioned, was in nursing for many, many years, and so she scheduled an appointment at a dermatologist, and I was there a few days later, and they freaked out when they saw it, and they were like, wow, this is kind of scary. And so they took part of it off and sent it out and had it analyzed, and then went through a series of events over the next few weeks and ended up getting this diagnosis. Went back into that was at a clinic in Seattle, and a fairly young dermatologist and a small skin health team, and so they sent us over to the UW, because they have a bigger facility there, and they actually combined with Fred Hutch to create the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance. And there's some good people over there and some good doctors, and fortunately we had one of them who was very supportive of our choices. And they went in on my back and took out more skin, and they call it a wide excision to kind of take out more, and then they did what's called a sentinel node biopsy, where they shoot this nuclear medicine into your back, or I guess it's not medicine, it's just some kind of fluid, and then it flows, and they watch it on a camera to see where it flows to, because the idea is they're thinking, you know, the lymph system is kind of like the cleanup system of your body. So if wherever the lymph fluid is flowing from that particular section is most likely where the cancer would have spread to. And of course, it went 100% underneath my armpit. Sometimes it breaks off and it goes in a couple different directions. They said it went all towards there. So they said, okay, we want to do a sentinel node biopsy, and that means they want to go in and take out some lymph nodes in my arm and kind of like analyze those. They grind up all the flesh and they look at it under a microscope and determine whether or not it has cancer. And sure enough, they found it. And Christmas of 1999, we watched a video called How to Eliminate Sickness that was done by Dr. George Malcolmus. And about 2 years before that, Nikki and I had traveled to Chicago to spend some time with my uncle and aunt, who just happened to be on the Hallelujah diet. And my aunt was diagnosed with MS like 25 years ago, and she lived a perfectly normal life, other than they were absolutely crazy in the way they ate. And we went and walked around in Chicago for the day, and we couldn't eat anything. I mean, we even found a salad bar at Wendy's, and that was not good enough. We couldn't eat there. And we just thought they were absolutely crazy. And so we spent about 24 hours with them. We got up the next day, and we didn't even get out of Chicago city limits. We were driving to Indianapolis for a race, and we were at a steak joint. Okay, so we thought they were crazy. But it was very providential, because that was a couple years before I was diagnosed. So when I got diagnosed, I'm like, you know, the doctors are telling me I have very little chance of living. I want to find out more about this Hallelujah diet thing that my uncle and aunt were doing. And so they sent us a videotape, or we got a videotape somewhere, and we watched it. We had our whole family sitting hovered in front of the TV. That was what we did Christmas of 1999, in case that's ever in a trivia book. We all sat and watched this video, because, you know, George Malcolmus he's a very energetic speaker, and he can go on and on for days. And so we watched that video, learned a ton, and I remember I took some Barley Max, it was called Barley Green at the time, and I took it, opened it up, and I took a spoon of it in my mouth. It was a big spoon too, and I was like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I got to do this, and but we did it, and our whole family committed to it, and we did it we did it as a family together for 6 months, even our extended family, and everybody was on the positive side. I mean, everybody had great results. They're losing weight and dropping dress sizes and getting off of medications, and I was feeling great. Nikki was suffering from IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. That was gone, in a matter of a few days, and just other than some bouts with dehydration and chemical poisoning because we didn't know what excitotoxins were, and just some other trying to figure out, well, it seems so restrictive to eat this way, but then you sort of realize, wow, it opens up a whole new range of options for how to eat. So once we got past all that, it was great. But even in the midst of all that, we were experiencing these great results and had all this great stuff happening. And so, fast forward, a year or two, we ended up with, we went to health ministers training in 2002. It was the only time they did it on the West Coast. It was down in Sacramento. And then, which by the way, I'm going to invite you to health ministers training next month. They're coming to Seattle, and then they're also doing one in San Diego. So we got, obviously we're really excited about this. When I was diagnosed, they said that we would never have kids and that I would never drive a race car again. And let me put that into perspective for you. When I was 4 years old, I told my mom I wanted to drive race cars. So that was what I thought about. That was really what I lived for, is what I wanted to do. It's so exciting, and that was my, one of my big life dreams. It seems sort of selfish and empty to say that's what the purpose of my life is, and it's certainly not, but that's something that I enjoy.
Mine too.
Yeah. And Nikki, when she was little, and this isn't uncommon for a lot of young ladies, but she just wanted to have kids, be a mom and be a great mom, which she is, and have these kids and have this family and do this stuff. And so it was like they were just jabbing right at the core of the things that we really wanted to do with our lives. And so we went out of there really empty. We're like, what do you mean we're not going to have? We're like, no way, we're not even going to receive that. So we ended up not doing the medical treatments. They gave me choices of, there was 4 different choices. There was interferon, chemotherapy, radiation, or this one, there were some clinical trials. I think a couple of those were combined because there was only 4. And then the last one was monitoring, which I think they threw in there just because they knew that's what I wanted. Which monitoring is, okay, we're not going to do any of the standard medical protocol, but we want you to come back so that we can do CAT scans and kind of look at your skin and collect some money from you every few months and make sure everything's cool. And so they were freaked every time we walked in. So we'd walk in and they're like, wow, look at him. And I know what it's like now because I've helped so many people through different diseases and especially through cancer and stuff. And you see them and you're like, they're on death's door. You just look at them. It's like the skin tone is bad. You can tell, they're just not healthy. They're overweight. They're kind of walking like this, and their steps are about half as long as they should be. It's just bad. And then, they adopt the diet. They change their lifestyle. They stop doing the things that are causing disease, and they start doing the things that make you healthy. And then the next time you see them, 2 or 3 weeks later, you're like, whoa, what happened to you? You took a life pill. You're alive. And so that's what would happen when we go into the doctors and we talk to them, and the nurses staff, they loved us. And they kept telling us, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And so they said, I want to see you every 3 months. And so we went back, and we went through the round of seeing the dermatologist and getting pricked by the nurse and, having a conversation with the doctor and doing all this stuff and having the doctor tell us about how many health problems his kids are having and, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, you got to change your diet. And so then we did that for, I think it was a year. So it was every 3 months. And then they said, gosh, you look so healthy. Or no, I think we did it for 6 months. And then they said, we'll see you again in 6 months. It's like, okay, that's cool. So then we saw him in a year. And then, we went there in a year. We did the CAT scan. You got to drink the pink goo. And you can read about that. There's a funny section in our ebook about that. And they said, wow, you just look great. The first year I lost 40 pounds. Okay, and there's no saying a disease. Now, the one thing you have to remember is I was never sick. Okay, I had a terminal diagnosis and I was never sick. You know the worst I felt? The worst I felt was because when they did this operation under my arm, they put this stupid JP tube in there to drain the area. It drove me nuts. I was like calling the nurse every day for 3 weeks, begging them to take that thing out. There's like blood clots coming out of it and all this nasty stuff. It was horrible. That was the worst I felt. And I had a terminal diagnosis. I mean, I was going to die of cancer, and if I would have continued doing what I was doing in my life, I guarantee you I would be dead. And most likely, if I would have done the standard medical protocol, I would be dead. And so I knew this was, for me, this was my only option. This is what I had to do. And so I went in there at a year, and they're like, wow, and in confidence, the doctor told us, he's like, I believe in this. Just based on looking at you, I believe this. Behind closed doors, he said, you got to keep doing whatever you're doing, but let me tell you, there's one thing I'm concerned about. One thing. Do you think you can do this for the rest of your life? Because I'm concerned about that. And I'll tell you, some of you might look at me and you might say the same thing, and you might look at your own life, and that might be the very thing that prevents you from making the change. So you might say, boy, I think I could do that for 3 weeks, but I don't know if I could make a lifestyle change. I mean, I don't know if I could give up meat forever. And I don't know if I could, give up Doritos forever. And so my challenge to you would be, my willpower is no stronger than yours. Do you want to know what keeps me where I'm at? And it keeps me focused on improving and getting better? I feel so much better than I ever did before. Do this for 3 weeks. And then come back to me and tell me you don't want to continue. You'll be like telling all your friends, oh, this is so awesome. Never felt better. I lost 10 pounds in 3 weeks. I feel great. I'm sleeping better at night. I had a friend of mine, every time he laid his head on the pillow, he'd have sharp pain in the back of his neck. Couldn't sleep, insomnia, all this problem. Can't have kids, disease, all kinds of other things. I mean, we've been doing this for 9 years. We've seen all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'll tell you, I know more about nutrition than most doctors do. And I know more about what it takes to heal disease and for people to heal themselves, because that's the process, than most doctors do. Doctors are trained in this disease. Standard protocol says this treatment, which means this drug, and that's how we make money. Nothing against them. They're great people, just like you and me. But their whole bent is towards this whole, standard protocol. And some of the books I'm going to talk about today are from doctors, highly respected doctors. So here's what I'm going to do. And I'll be happy to talk more about my story if you want, but you can read about it. And I want to get to these books. And then if you want to do during Q&A, if there's specifics that you want to know about it, I can talk more about that. But the reality is we're still here. I'm driving race cars. We have 3 beautiful kids. This is our oldest, Gabe. Nikki's holding Jake back there, which is our youngest, and Farrell's running around here somewhere. Oh, she's back there. So we have boy, girl, boy so far. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you